Justice isn't always just, and for one mother, a crime that would only barely be considered a felony by today's standards carried the ultimate penalty, a death sentence. This tale is one of desperation, injustice, and an escape so daring it became legend. Join us as we uncover the story of Sarah Chandler, a woman condemned to be executed for a petty crime who managed to cheat death and disappear, escaping the wrath of a judge hell-bent on ending her life. In 1814, Sarah Chandler sat in a cold, dark prison cell of the courthouse basement, sentenced to die for forging a few banknotes. Desperate, she and many others pleaded for mercy for Sarah's life to be spared. The judge showed no such mercy. But, thankfully for Sarah, her brothers had other plans. In the dead of the night, they executed one of history's most daring prison breaks. Sarah escaped, only to be caught years later. But at the time, her fate would change forever. This is the story of Sarah Chandler, the mother-turned-fugitive who defied death. Sarah Bowen was born sometime between 1777 and 1780 in Beguildy, Wales. Sarah, along with her brothers Francis and William, grew up in a working-class family, and little is known about her early life. By adulthood, she was married to a sheep farmer, Thomas Chandler, and together they had 7 children. By 1814, Sarah was struggling to provide for her family. She needed money for basic necessities, including new shoes for the children. But Thomas, described as tight-fisted with a quick temper, was not inclined to indulge his wife's shopping trip. In desperation, Sarah made a fatal mistake. Illiterate and out of options, Sarah convinced a neighbor to write the numbers 2 and 5 for her. She took these to a local printer, asking for them to be printed in the style and size of local banknotes. She then pasted the forgeries over legitimate £1 notes, attempting to pass them off as official currency. Sarah took her illegitimate cash to the local market, purchasing items from several vendors. Though she may have fooled a few shopkeepers, it wasn't long before her deception was discovered. Sarah was arrested and thrown into a basement jail beneath the pristine courthouse, awaiting trial for forgery. Sarah's case landed in the hands of the arguably less than honorable Judge 𝖕𝖠𝖆, a man notorious for doling out harsh punishments. Sarah's family feared that Judge 𝖕𝖆 would try to make an example of her, as forgery was becoming all too common and the legal system had shown very little sympathy for counterfeiters. During her trial, Sarah pleaded for mercy. She insisted that she only forged the notes out of desperation, claiming that her stingy husband would have beaten her if she asked him for money to buy shoes for their children. Witnesses provided testimonies to support Sarah's good character, but the pleading and the vouching fell on deaf ears with Judge 𝖕𝖆. He handed down his judgment. Sarah would be executed. Beyond desperate and out of options, Sarah claimed the only defense that might save her. She said she was pregnant. At the time, this tactic was referred to as pleading the belly, and it allowed for temporary postponement of executions for expectant mothers. Her execution was stayed, granting friends and family time to beg for her life. And beg they did. Sarah's husband, family members, townspeople, members of the jury, the local sheriff, and even the very banker she had defrauded all begged that Judge 𝖕𝖆 would reconsider his verdict and spare Sarah's life. The pleas made it all the way to Home Secretary Lord Sidmouth, who granted Sarah an additional 2 weeks. Judge Hardinge heavily protested this display of mercy, writing in a letter to Lord Sidmouth that her execution was imperative and necessary. When it was revealed that Sarah was not pregnant, Judge Hardinge saw to it that her execution was promptly scheduled for August 1814. The date was set, and Sarah's timer began to tick down as she wasted away in a cold, damp, rat-infested cell underneath the courthouse. However, as with many stories, fate had other plans. In this case, fate came in the form of her two brothers, Francis and William Bowen, who decided that they would not sit idly by while their sister was executed. The brothers were determined to save Sarah's life by any means necessary. Evidence suggests that they bribed or blackmailed the warden to turn a blind eye while they carried out their plan. On the night of the escape, they placed a ladder against the wall, climbed up, and removed the hearthstone from Sarah's cell. With her brother's help, Sarah climbed out and escaped into the night, escaping death in the process. The bloodthirsty Judge Hardinge was beyond furious. He ordered authorities to launch a manhunt, plastering posters with continually increasing rewards for information leading to Sarah's capture. Yet, despite the widespread poverty in the area, not a single person gave up Sarah, standing against the injustice of her sentence. For 2 years, Sarah remained at large, managing to survive and evade capture. Eventually, though, her luck ran out. In 1816, Sarah was discovered in Birmingham, where she'd been earning a living as a milkmaid. She was arrested and sent to the very same prison she'd escaped from. It seemed like Sarah had found her way back to the same horrible fate, stuck in a cell and awaiting her death. However, something very crucial had changed. Exactly a year prior to Sarah's second trial, Judge Hardinge had died. The new judge was far less insistent on executing Sarah, citing also her attempt to make an honest living since her escape. Her death sentence was commuted, instead replaced by an alternative: transportation for life. Instead of being executed, Sarah would be sent to live out her days in the prison colony of Australia. In early 1818, Sarah arrived in New South Wales after months at sea. She was initially sent to the Parramatta Female Factory, a work centre for female convicts. However, life in Australia was not kind to Sarah. Within a year, she was sent to a harsher prison settlement in Newcastle for reoffending. The spotty records following the rest of Sarah's life show that she married another prisoner, Dennis Moreau, in 1827. In 1829, she was convicted of another felony, sentenced to 3 months of hard labor at the factory and having her head shaved. Her name appears in records a few more times, and by 1835, Sarah was dead. Sarah Chandler's story stands as one of the most fascinating prison escapes ever endeavored by a woman in human history. Was she a desperate mother, pushed to crime by her circumstances? Or was she an intentional career criminal along with her family, as some believe? Either way, we can all agree that Sarah's punishment was far beyond what she deserved, and her story of tragic injustice shall remain as yet another tale from the underworld. Thanks for listening to Tales from the Underworld. If you're fascinated by the stories we uncover, make sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. For even more exclusive content, head over to our website at talesfromtheunderworld.com and subscribe to our newsletter. You'll get insider access to deeper case details, early updates on new episodes, and more true crime content sent straight to your inbox. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and stay out of the shadows.